I'll make a motion to adjourn the session.
Second.
I don't think there any discussion on that, so I'm going to take the roll.
Ellison.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Heine.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Nugent.
And yes. That's it? All right, these are for you. And with that, take your seats. Thank you.
I nominate Dennis Geiger as president pro tem.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
We'll do this in alphabetical order. Giorgio.
Here.
Heine.
Here.
Lambert. Leach.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Okay, nominations are now in order for the office of president.
I
I
nominate
nominate
Rich
Jim
Lambert.
Leach, president.
Okay. Okay.
I nominate Kristen Heine for president.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. Hearing no further nominations, the nominations for the office of president are closed.
Can I start? Can I, as honored as I am, can
Sure.
I decline that nomination?
Sure.
Thank you, Dee, for thinking that I would be good for that, but I'd like to decline that.
Okay. Okay. Are there further nominations for the office of president? Okay, if there are no further nominations for the office of president, then Jim Leach, we don't need to vote, will be the president by acclamation. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, you looked right at me. I thought that I had nominated Rick Lambert.
Okay, very good. That's why I came back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, good. Okay, so then Rick Lambert and Jim Leach. So what we'll do is we'll have a roll call vote. And Dan, you'll call the roll.
I'll do the roll call. Just
Say the name of the person you're voting for.
Giorgio.
Lambert.
Heine.
Lambert.
Lambert. Leach.
Leach.
Thompson.
Leach.
Young.
Lambert.
Zimmerman.
Leach.
Okay. Secretary, report the,
We have a majority vote for Rick Lambert as president.
okay. Then Rick, will you take over and fill out the other offices?
Nominations are now in order for the office of vice president.
I nominate Kristen Heine. I nominate Jim Leach.
Any other nominations? Dan, can you call the roll, please?
Says before. Giorgio.
Heine.
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 Lambert.
Heine.
Leach.
Leach.
Thompson,
Page.
Young,
Heine.
Zimmerman.
Leach.
We have a majority.
Okay.
Votes cast for Leach. Or for Heine.
Yep.
Nominations are now in order for the office of secretary. I'd like to nominate Chris Thompson. Are there any other nominations for the office of secretary? Nominations are closed. We don't need a roll call. Chris Thompson is secretary. Nominations are now in order for the office of treasurer.
I make a nomination for Kathy Zimmerman as treasurer.
I'm sorry, Rick, I cannot hear you.
We were taking nominations for treasurer, Chris. Did you get that you were the secretary?
I did. I couldn't hear any of that, so what just happened?
Yes, I just
Your
had.
secretary.
Did you want to nominate somebody else?
You're welcome.
So now we're taking nominations for treasurer, Chris. We have one for Kathy Zimmerman. Any other nominations? Kathy Zimmerman is treasurer. I am looking for a motion to set the date, time and date for regular meetings. We'll start with where we're at now, which is 7 p.m., fourth Monday of every month. Do I have a motion to continue that?
I'll second. I have a motion to continue that.
Second. Any discussion? Any changes anybody would like to make? Any Pablo?
Giorgio,
Aye.
Wait, Diane? Sorry, it's
Go
really
ahead.
hard to hear. What are we still going on Mondays?
Fourth Monday of the month at 7 o'clock. Yep, Chris. You're welcome.
Heine,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Leach,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
At this time, I'm going to step away from the board meeting.
Yes.
And if at any point we need to meet and come back and do a vote, let me know. Text me. I need to go back to my classroom right now. Thank you for allowing me to Skype in,
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
and welcome everybody to the board.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You ready, Dan?
All right. Well, first let me say welcome and congratulations to everyone in various committees. If you'll turn into your packets, first couple of pages, a few months ago, I started, well, actually, the beginning of this fiscal year, I started putting together a quarterly review just to give you an idea of where we're at, because you can see, especially for the newer board members, there's several pages of financial data that we give you, and what I try to do is try to organize that a little bit and try to make it a little more simpler and just to explain the general direction of where the district is. Board members that are currently maybe will remember that quarter one looked very good, and quarter one always looks good because we always have a ton of money, and we haven't really spent a whole lot of money yet. Quarter two looked right on target. Money was less and less because we only basically get our taxes twice a year, and now we're on quarter three, and I told you should not be surprised that quarter three is the worst quarter thus far, but I wanted to kind of walk through a couple things with you guys. So if you look at the top, I'll start talking about revenue a little bit. Essentially, we as a school district, and most school districts, for anyone interested, we get our revenues from three places: the local property taxes and fees. We get money from the state, or we're supposed to, and then federal money. And you can see the breakdown. The 76% of our revenue comes from the local property taxes. 18%, almost 19% comes from state funding, and the rest remain, essentially 4% comes from federal. The transfer item, that's not really part of our revenue, that's just an accounting thing we have to do. That's money that transfers from an account to a different account. but it technically doesn't fall into one of the other categories. So, how are we doing essentially? Well, if we're three-fourths of the way through the year, so this is third quarter, ideally you would say, well, maybe our revenue should be around 75%. And I gave you kind of a benchmark. That's the benchmark percentage that I put there. And you can kind of see where a benchmark budget would be. So right now, if we were at 75%, we should have about $5 million in revenue. However, we're not at 5 million, we're at 3.5 million, which is a little over 51%. But if you'll notice, local revenue, which again is the vast majority of our revenue, we've only gotten a little over half. And that's mostly because we don't get the other big chunk of our taxes until mostly in June, but we get a little bit in May. So we get about 160,000 in May, we get a good couple million in June. So that will fill up, and we're fully anticipating to completely fill up our revenue for local. The state, if you look at the budget, we're about 50% of our budget, and that's pretty much because I expect them to give us one more quarterly payment this year. We've only gotten one. They're called quarterly payments because they're supposed to give us 4. They've only given us 1, so they're about 9 months behind giving us. And so we'll see what happens. No promises. They did the tax rate increase, but they're saying that they're so far behind that that's not going to help them catch up. And there's not really a whole lot we can do about it. The federal money is 24%, and that's very similar to the state. It's just the state has control over giving us federal money. So again, they're holding the cash, or they're saying they don't have the cash to send to us, and that's why we're there. So we're anticipating to get some more federal and state, but as you can see, it's a very small percentage of our budget compared to the property taxes. And then I just tried to put a graph together because some people are more visual versus numbers. So you can kind of see the blue bar would be like a budget benchmark, and the red bar would be what we actually received. And so you can kind of see the significance of local, state, and federal taxes to us and how little, for instance, federal has to do with our total budget. All right, so that's revenue. Now looking at expenditures. Again, if we're three quarters of the way through the year, typically you would say maybe we should be around 75% of our budget. That is true for mostly, but I wanted to look at each category that we spend in. So you can see the different categories that we spend in. The first category is salaries. If we'll look at that, our budget for salaries is almost 3.4 million, which is 45% of our budget. So far, we've spent 70